Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. Today, we're talking with a serial entrepreneur, not a serial killer, a serial entrepreneur who has built a brand serving other entrepreneurs across the globe. He hosts, too, one of the most popular business podcasts on the planet, the 10-Minute Entrepreneur. Today, we're talking about his personal brand and how that led to his success. I'm Tanya Eberhardt, founder of BrandFace, and we help business stars differentiate themselves, and we do that through personal branding.
And I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. I was actually a client before I became a partner in the company, and we're the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe. We do Be Bold podcasts to help people just like yourself listening, take the fear out of putting yourself out there with your brand. And we've got a very, very, very special guest here today that's going to help us quantify that.
His name is Sean Castrina, and he is, as I said earlier, a serial entrepreneur, having started more than 20 companies over the last 20 years, hasn't had a thing to do, right? And still seeks to launch a new venture annually. He is the author of 4 best-selling business books, including 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success, The Greatest Entrepreneur in the World's Greatest Business Plan, and his latest book, Developing the Entrepreneur Within. Welcome to the program, Sean.
Great to see you too.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Great to see you. When we were on your show, it was very memorable for us because we thought that you were like super bold. And we thought, you know what, we've got to capture this guy. Like, we got to bottle this guy, put him on Be Bold Branding and see what he has to say.
Well, I'm here. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's jump right in, man. 20 different businesses, 20 years. What was your number one inspiration to becoming an entrepreneur?
Not being poor. I grew up poor. It sucks. Anybody who thinks, people say, well, money isn't everything. I agree with you. It's in the top 3.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, you can't really achieve too much without it.
That's right.
All I know is that's the only thing my parents fought about.
Very interesting.
Money was the predicate of nearly every, every decision, every argument. What you were doing on vacation was how much money you had. What you're going to do that weekend was how much money you had. Where were you going to go out to eat was based on how much money you had. Everything was based on that. That was the temperature gauge in our house.
What's interesting is that can either make you or break you, right? Because it can turn money into a negative thing in your mind, even subconsciously, or it can turn it into a positive thing. What was it that tipped the scales to turn it positive for you?
I just knew you could make it. I mean, at 13, I started mowing grass, mowing lawns, and I had a job. But when something clicked really early, I remember I contracted a lawn it was like $3. And my friend said he'd mow it for $2. That's it. That was the aha. So I let him mow it and I made $1 to do nothing. And once I figured that kind of just put everything in motion, down the years down the road, it grows. But I just realized making money was not that hard. And number 2 is you did not have to do the work to make money, because my dad would always work hard. He was a hard worker, but that didn't necessarily mean wealth by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a good quantification actually of that.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up sort of the same way, but my dad was an entrepreneur. I mean, and he was owned a car lot, and we grew up in the car business, but not what I would call like a long-standing entrepreneur. Very, very, very short-sighted, and never caught on to that thought process like you just said. Hey, it clicked early on. If I can make it rain, not only do I make it rain for me and I get to make a profit, I don't have to do the work. And you made it rain for this other guy. So effectively, you served 2 different people in that particular transaction, and everybody walked away happy. Yeah,
and I learned that early. There's a very famous knife company and marketing thing called Cutco Knives. Everybody's probably heard of them at some point. They're incredible knife set. I, at one time, held their world's record. I did have this gold record. When I was in graduate school, I had the most consecutive weeks. This was 32 years ago. But just so you know, I worked under the Vector Marketing Group out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So nobody thinks I'm making this up. So they know that's a fact. And I had their record for the, the best record they had. What they never realized is that I did a personal race to 50% commission. I worked my tail off for like 6 weeks to get to this, like you had to hit a certain number and your commission would start at 10% because typically only lasted like a week. You sold your mother, your grandmother, whatever, and you were out and they made a, massive override on whatever you sold. From the beginning, I looked at it and I go, okay, wait, if I get to this, I go from 10% to 25% to 50%. Within 4 weeks, I got to 50%. Then I brought in salespeople and gave them 25%, which was 15% more than they would ever get starting with the company. And I made 25. They would meet with me every Monday. I had a sales meeting at 5 o'clock. They'd come to my house at 4 o'clock. We'd go over their sales reports. I'd advance them the money. I got to have a little bit of wherewithal, but I advance them their money, go turn my report in, hit my 1,000 every week, didn't sell a thing. And, I made 25%. I always knew, like, how do I position other people to do the work and for me to get the reward or the spoils?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of rinsed and repeated for 30 years of that.
That's awesome.
I love it. So what would you say is the number one thing you are known for?
I mean, most people, I probably have clients think I'm an arrogant son of a gun, which is, I have a little bit of that in me. I mean, I'm confident. Because I think that customers, if they would allow themselves to, they would BITCH, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, slap you all over the place. And I just don't let that happen. When I get that customer that's, I say, wait, stop for a second. I don't know who you're talking to. And I've done this in the last 6 months, probably do it about every 6 months, where I'll say to a customer, I apologize, but we have a problem here. Okay. I'm not sure who you're talking to, but this conversation needs to change a different tone. And you're not going to tell my employees, or any of us what to do. So, I mean, I'm definitely in your face, but I think realistically, the clients that know me know that Sean's going to get it done. He is laser focused. I mean, you want a guy to run the show. If you just stay out of his way, you just give him, just let him have what you paid him to do and leave him alone. And he definitely will get it done. So I'd like to think my clients, and they pay me really well to do that. It's like I had a roommate in town from college. I had all my roommates in for the weekend for a homecoming. And I went out to get paid to do an estimate. He's like, well, how do you get paid to do an estimate? Because everybody get like free estimates. And I was only there for like 15 minutes. And a lady listened to every piece of advice I gave. And he goes, that is amazing. I mean, you just got paid. And I said, I get that all week long. Because I've created a brand to where they trust my advice, to the point where they before they move forward, they'd rather, hey, Sean, could we have Sean just take a look at this and just kind of give us what he thinks? And so, yeah, we all know you have a brand one way or the other, good or bad. You've got
Right.
one.
That's exactly right.
Well,
You really listen. Your telepathic abilities just keep coming out, because that literally was going to be the next question I was going to ask you, is like, how does your personal brand or story help you to build your business? And effectively you just answered that, because you've built that brand, you've systematically done that to where people trust your knowledge and what they're asking you for. And you don't have to give free estimates.
People have to craft that. I mean, to me, I think you have to look at your industry and say, okay, what are the 3 things that people would like the most or would have the highest value? Because every industry is different. Mm-hmm. Whatever it may be, what's mine and what's it may be different. But I think tell you one brand position people grab onto too much, and I don't think it's a good one, and it'll shock you. Because I hear it all the time. I have a financial planner. I heard a radio commercial, and they do our retirement for our company, and they beat this integrity thing. We're just, integrity. I called him up on the phone. I said, Nate, I just heard your commercial. I said, it's not very good. What do you mean? I said, you pushed integrity. You're my financial planner. I expect that from you. Mm-hmm. You don't need to in other words, what are you going to go? I'm Nate. I'm a thief. I go, think about it. He goes, I go, just think about it for a second. You're promoting a quality that I expect in my financial planner. Give me something that makes you different. Because every one of you tell me how we're just good old family-owned business. Praise Jesus. We've been doing this for 50 years and all. And I love that. And I'm a faith-based guy. But that ain't enough.
No, let me
We
tell you
agree,
how much
100%.
I love you, Sean, because what you just said warms my heart. I have preached for so many years. It's like, do not put the word trusted or integrity or anything else in your tagline
Honest
or your
or-
business name. Get it out, because the moment you say it, no one believes it.
Oh, I
And
love
your
this.
brand,
Family owned. How do you like that one? We're just
I
good old
hate it.
family owned. I know it drives me crazy.
That tells me third generation, they're bitter anyway. They're going to be selling it
Tells
off.
me they're cheap. It just tells me I can get them for cheap. Whenever I see family owned, I'm like, okay, but isn't that a brand position people grab on? They grab onto integrity, honesty, and
Trusted.
family owned. Family. Oh, we just good old family
And
owned business.
top customer service, right?
Mm.
But here's what I say to them. You don't need to put those in your brand messaging. You don't need to put it as a tagline. It does not need to be in your business name. It needs to be enmeshed so deeply into your brand that you never have to say the words.
Never say it.
You never
And
say
you
it.
live it.
Right.
Yeah.
What I do is that I call this there's a part of marketing that I call stealth marketing. And I believe that you layer your marketing. Okay. I have marketing that's in your face. I do Super Bowl ads. That's in your face. You know what I mean? That's to my competition where they go, wow, they're really expensive. People say to me, why do you do the Super Bowl ad? Because I said, eliminates 1/3 of the people who were thinking about calling us and know they can't afford us. It gets 1/3 of the people. Man,
It's perception.
Absolutely. So you go with that idea, but stealth marketing, I said, what do you do that's subtle? Well, number one, I can't talk about my honesty because it's not but I let my customers do it.
Right.
I don't tell them to, but I'll tell. The number one way we roll out our TV commercials is, what made you reach out to Advantage? Okay. What made you choose them? What was your experience like? And that's where they'll get into, wow, they just do everything they say they're going to do. Their contract was right on. They finished when they said it. They're not using the word honesty or trust, but they're given the trust.
Same values.
Yep.
And I let them do it. Now, like something we did a month ago, I kept driving by our office. We have a beautiful blue office, takes up an entire corner. I put up an American flag. Didn't say anything to anybody. I own the company. I really don't care. 25 feet. I mean, this is a monster. And it sits against the blue background of our office. It looks so good. Massive sign in front of it. I didn't say anything to anybody, but I took that picture and it'll start going in our ads. I'll never say a word. It's subtle, but we both know what it says. And I always say, if a customer doesn't like it, I don't want them as a customer anyway.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know I'll get the older customers. I know I'll get over 60, and that's our target customer. I mean, that's probably half our revenue. And I'll get veterans and all the rest. It's subtle. And sometimes even in building when I look at my brand, I look layers deep. I look at, okay, what is the perception that I want of me and my company? Okay. Because I'm tied to my company. I represent it. And then I go, okay, I can't talk about my honesty. So I'll have 13 radio commercials. I have 13 radio commercials right now that rotate, that say all those incredible things about me and or us. They're not allowed to say another person in the commercial. They can only say Sean, never my last name. Boy, Sean was good. Gosh, boy, he's an idea magnet. Whatever. I'll extract it, because then there's this perception, 13 commercials running through all the radio commercials saying, reinforcing the brand. And then I do the subtle things like the American flag. And, so there's things that you do that's very bold up front. And then you do some subtle things
on the back. I love dropping the last name in those testimonials, because that implies friendship, a connectedness, that they know you well enough.
It's more personal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sean came out to our house, and the advice he gave was just unbelievable. He showed us how we can save money and really reach all the time.
Yep. Now, I was looking through, a lot of your material, some of your interviews. You actually do a monthly webinar for entrepreneurs, correct?
I do at times. I'm not convinced. What it is that I get paid a lot to do those things. So my staff was like, let's not give away so many things. They're like, in other words, they're like your podcast. You give away a lot, Sean, in that you do a mentoring issue, because I got so many people that wanted me to coach them or mentoring. I don't have the time to do it, so I basically do a Friday podcast where it's just the CEOs and startups. So I basically took that and put it on my podcast. So I do that. My Friday CEO edition is what she's talking about. So if you go to the 10-minute entrepreneur podcast, that's where I really give away all my goodies. Yeah. All my mistakes go in that podcast.
You answered.
There you go.
There you go. You answered my question, which was, why do you do that? And now I know you, because you can't reach everybody. It's kind of like a brand. Michael can't touch every single customer, but his agents can. But they know what he stands for. They know what each individual agent stands for because of their personal brand. You can't touch everybody, but you can teach them through one of your platforms that reaches a lot of people at once. And I love that. I love that you put that much into it. And I know what you're saying. It's a fine line between you're already giving too much but I can't help everybody, and this will help enough people and bring the right people to the surface. I totally get that and applaud you.
I'm always looking, and I meet with my people. I said, this is just free business advice. You can have a great idea, but is it sustainable? So I have things that I think are good, but do I have the time to sustain it? I get business opportunities all the time now. This is just free advice, but I'm constantly running it through. Can I sustain it? Do I really need another mouth to feed in the sense of business?
Absolutely.
And sometimes I have to go, you know what, I'm gonna have to give that one away, or that we're just not gonna be able to go on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's wise.
It reminds me of something Michael said that just the other day. He said, I don't need any more on my plate, but I need a lot more plates.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it because then you're grooming, you're helping other people, giving them opportunities to create those plates and take over those plates for you, so you're not one man spinning 8 plates.
Yeah. Well, my grandpa used to say all the time, he's like, listen, son, I've never seen any business go out of business being too small, which is super wise, right? I mean, if you can control it, if you can handle it, you can be successful. And, there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast and will listen to your podcast and they want to be a small company, and that's okay. If you want to be a one-man shop, that's all right. Nothing wrong with that. But then there's other people that want to grow something much bigger. And so sort of like in your lifestyle, and when Grandpa said that, I have utmost respect for him. I'm like, okay, but I don't want that. Like, I want something bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So how do I quantify that? Still took me 20 years to figure out. I can't see everything. And so you have to train well, and you have to be able to trust the people that you hand it off to. Sort of like you said earlier, pick the right man for the job and leave them alone while they're doing it. That's funny. And that is the way you can scale a business and stay growing all the time. But so many people try to take on so much and they can't barely touch it. They don't have the right people in place. And then that's why it crumbles out from under them. Yeah, no, you're right. It's funny. I was riding with one of my friends this morning, and I was working with one of my higher, level employees. And I said, listen, I was trying to explain it to him. I said, Joe, my job is to work with the one who can work with the 5 and the 10. In other words, all the people that I work with have 5 or 10 people underneath them. I don't work with the 5 and the 10. I don't work with the pod. I work with the leader of the pod. My job is to recruit pod leaders, people that can run divisions of my companies, run startups. I said, that's where I put my focus.
Absolutely. And I think in another interview, I found it quite interesting that you said one of your superpowers is hiring and retaining really good people. Love that.
Yeah. I mean, that I would say the one thing that I do, better than anything I've done and it's given me the greatest payoff is I'm always recruiting talent. Mm-hmm. And it could be, I could meet someone, like somebody comes to my house and does an estimate on something on my house. And I'll say, wait, what's your number again? And all that. And where'd you go to school? Or did you go to school? What's your background? What's your family situation? And I'll go in and I'll tell my wife, I'm putting that in the get back to file. And I'll reach back out to people. I go, you remember when you came to my house? And they know by the size of my house that I'm different, just in general. It's not like they're going to forget. It's that guy with that ridiculously big house and all those nice cars. And
Love it.
so I know they ain't gonna forget. I do. I know they're never gonna forget me. But I'll reach back out and I go, you came out here. I was really impressed with it. I'd love to just take you to lunch. And then because I have always found I've got ideas and opportunities, but they stink if I don't have somebody to pair it with because I don't have any more time. So I'm in that constant pursuit of finding that what I just talked about, the one who can run the 10. I'm always looking for the one who can run the 10. I don't care about the 10 per se. I don't have time to manage 10 soldiers. I can't work with pawns right now. I got to find queens, bishops, and rooks.
Yeah. I
There you
like
go.
that.
Love that analogy.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
analogy. And it's true. It is true. Yeah. And that's a great give back too, right? In a couple of different ways. Number one, when you find those good people that are really great at their craft, everybody else needs that really good person too, because there's plenty of the not good out there. There is no industry where the people are created equal. There is cream in every industry, and those are the ones that make your life so much.
I have found them. I just was thinking about, like, I'll go to our Christmas party and I'll have so many wives come up and give me that hug and go, hey, thank you. Thank you is because my husband made 60 and now he makes $250,000.
Mhm.
And I get it all the way through the evening, all the way through that hug. Thank you. Why? Because we just bought a brand new house. Like, I look at the one who I just partnered with in one of my companies. And when I met him, he was driving a 2000 Ford. I didn't even know you could drive a car that long. So I guess that was 21 years. Yeah. So now he drives a, beautiful BMW. He just bought a house,
Mhm.
and I can go, I remember I hired a guy for $850. Great story. Tony, gosh, I'll never forget it. And I met him at my office and I said, Tony, please, I want to do the next interview at my house. And there was a reason for that. I wanted him to have the awe factor. And so I bring him in the foyer, and it's like going, I mean, it's really big. And then I walk him out through the garage and it's, Mercedes, BMW. And so I'm sitting in there with him and I'm like, Tony, you said how much do you want to make? He said, being real firm, like he's negotiating with me. I've got to have a base salary no lower than $850. And I'm like, I'm like, I got that in change upstairs. I don't want to say that to him, but I'm like, so $850 is what we need to bring you on. Yeah, but I got to know I'm going to make it every week. I go, great. I said, Tony, listen, I'd love to give you $850 and I can give you $850. I said, but what if I gave you this oversight of two of my divisions? Because I think you're better than even what you realize. And I said, I'd like to make a bet. I'll make sure you get $850. But I'd like to give you a percentage of profit. I said, I'd like to give you 15% of everything you slay. He's made $250,000 every year for the last 4 years. And I always joke with him, I should have paid you that $850 every time.
That's right.
His office is right to mine. I said, just remember that. I could have had you for $850. I said, but Tony, you know what I know? You wouldn't be sitting here 5 years later if I gave you $850.
That's right.
Said, that's why I knew not to give you $850.
Yep. Yeah.
No,
that's fantastic, really and truly, because, we say it in BrandFace all the time. Like, people, she did it for me, that you can't read the label when you're inside the jar. And then there's that other axiom, right? Old Chinese proverb that says that the frog in the well thinks the sky is the same diameter as the well. Like that, it doesn't have any other vantage point to that one.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're able to pull that talent out and show them, no, this is what the sky looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, right?
I
and
know, like
that things vantage points.
like they'll think of in our business, the average person in our business, I think our company within our business makes like $80,000 and we'll do 8 figures. And like, that's why I like to hit them with the wow factor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With the wow. And I tell them, I go, listen, and the business we're in, guys, I don't know how to do any of it. That's what I tell them. I don't know how to do anything. What I'm great at is getting you guys handle the granular part of it. I'm good at branding. And I know that. Said, I will make the phone ring off the hook. Mm-hmm. And now I can, talk about a branding position, how I hire so many. I'm in construction, if anybody's figuring that out. And I also own an incredible digital marketing company. That was the guy who was driving the BMW. So I own diverse companies. But in the construction company, I don't know how to assemble a 3-piece birdhouse. But from the very beginning, my brand positioning and hiring, because you kind of have a brand that you the one for my employees, I'll never forget how I hired them all. I said, listen, I can't do what you do. But this is the one thing every construction person fears. Two things they fear. They fear, number one, is that they're going to do work and not get paid for it. And number two is you're going to run out of work. Yep. Sit home in the winter. So I'd always park my nice car in front of the office when I did the interview, so they knew I had money. And then I would always say to them, listen, I need you to be great at this, but you got to trust me. That phone will never stop ringing. You will never sit home in the winter if you work for me. So in employees, I have a brand position with them, because what they want is, they don't want to know when I write a check, it's gold.
Right.
That check ain't bouncing. They ain't no shenanigans. And they want to know that in the wintertime, because they're all so used to starving in the winter.
Right.
When I'm interviewing, all things aren't equal. They're interviewing with 5 companies. And my positioning is this: you're never going to sit home. I win all coin tosses, because that's the most valuable brand position within construction. Is
Right.
your check is good and you're never sitting home.
Yep. And that goes to like, know your ideal customer, right?
Yeah.
Because in that one situation, you've got the end customer who's receiving the products and services, but you have the people who are actually executing that on your behalf, the people
Yeah.
you're recruiting.
And that could be a slightly very, area of differentiation.
It almost is always slight.
Yeah. It's slight, but at the end of the day, I want people to, I mean, I think, going back to brand position, is my number one brand position is Sean has extraordinary follow through. Because if you really got down to it, I think my customers and my employees would say he's wickedly smart and has extreme follow through. And you better do the same, or you won't be working for him long.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, it's fantastic because, I mean, even going back to the early part of our conversation about never saying integrity, never saying honesty, but living all of those, we teach our clients that, you have to live this brand. Like, this brand is you. Like, so it better be you. It better be dialed in. That's why we look at 77 different criteria when we're building one, because it better be dialed in. It better be who you are. And in your particular case, my case, in my company, same situation. My agents have got to know that I'm going to feed them. They got to know that I'm different as other brokers. I'm not just playing a numbers game where I just want to come up with 2,000 agents and and 10 of them are successful. What good is that to me? I don't want that. That's not the way we are. You've built that brand, and now not only do your employees know, but they live that same thing. Every time they're in somebody's kitchen, bathroom, building a house, painting, doing all of those things.
You're so funny, because I heard a great story about the Undertaker in WWE. And when he had made the decision to be the Undertaker, he said, I can't be walking through an airport wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I'm the Undertaker.
I got to be
the Undertaker. He immediately realized, I wear black. I'm not friendly in airports. I'm not I'm not rude, but he said, I knew I took on this persona.
Yes.
And
I've got to be that Undertaker.
Elvis Presley did the same thing. When you looked at Elvis, you never saw him out of character. Never. You cannot find one photo of Elvis not being Elvis. I don't care what he was doing. He had sunglasses with never. Right. There's never a photo of Elvis not being Elvis.
He was always on time. On time with that persona.
He had his brand, and obviously
he did. Well, we have 5 important questions that we ask everybody. You've actually already answered the first one. Which was what sets you apart from others who do some of the same things you do. You've answered that in multiple ways, and I love it. The second question is, exactly who do you serve? Like, who are your ideal customers? Our
ideal customer I say you need to be like an FBI profiler. Our ideal customer is typically over the age of 35, homeowner, above average income. That's it. That's the tip, the over 35, over 50 is really where we start moving into our strike zone. 50 to 70 is like, wow, that's the absolute. I did a podcast one time, how Tiger Woods made me a millionaire, because golf events is my target customer. Because typically, not to offend anybody, but generally if you're married, and you might do it differently, but generally if you're married, even if the wife says, I want to do this, I think we need to do this, we do that, she generally bounces it off her husband. And I would bounce it off my wife. So I get them at the Golf Channel, and they're constantly saying, well, if you're going to do that, why don't you reach out to, Advantage, reach out to Advantage. And I think it's, I don't know. So our target customer, 30, it starts at around 35, typically, to own a house that would meet our criteria. But as we get older, we really hit it. 50 to 70 is like, wow, that's what we really like.
What
Love that.
I love about that is going through the Golf Channel, you've tapped into not only a co-decision maker, you've tapped into the influencer.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the income, and they have the income.
And the income,
we're-
you've
we're
dialed that in.
expensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is what I always say, whether you like it, listen, and this just gets into target marketing. Okay.
Mhm.
You don't see Rolex advertising at a NASCAR event.
Right.
Don't take
Correct.
it personal, but you don't. You'll see them at the US Open and you'll see them at the golf events.
Mhm.
That's just the reality of it. They know their target, and it's not like NASCAR's looking for, struggling for sponsors, because they got
Right.
decals everywhere. In other words,
Sure do.
there's not an event that has more sponsors than NASCAR,
That's
but
true.
you don't see Rolex. And you
Right.
don't see financial service companies.
Yep.
Because they're dialed in.
But if you're going to your customers and a bulk of them are wearing a Rolex,
Yeah.
then you've picked the right area to be targeting the people you're trying to attract. And that is everything about building a brand and allowing that
You
brand.
got to
to
know
work.
you got to know who's buying your products.
Gotta know.
Waste a lot of money.
You
You
do.
just waste a lot of money because you're doing. In other words, if I did every sporting event, but on a Sunday, I want to hit a golf event.
Yeah.
Because if I have a choice of everything that's on Sunday and I want to run a commercial or radio, or I want to do digital ads, and I own a huge digital marketing company, but my ads are micro targeted.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then in that, how do you serve your customers? And does that come out in your advertising?
Yeah, I mean, typically, if you want to, we're the leader in home repairs and projects. So there you go, our tagline.
There
We're
you
the
go.
leader in home repairs and projects.
Perfect.
But I was going to say, but our subtle, I would keep going back to that subtle brand, I would say stealth. In
Mhm.
every estimate we give, we kind of say clients over 21 years have chosen Advantage because they want a stress-free turnkey experience.
That's
I like
great.
it. And you
That's
just answered
not-
question number 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use
Which-
nail number 4.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
what qualifies you to serve them, because we've been doing this 21 years and here's exactly what we've done. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I hope you guys that are listening are really like tying this together, because this is the difference in growing a company like Advantage and starting off with chucking a truck. Like this is how it makes a difference.
right.
And then I'm sure you answered the question, how does that make their life better? Really, with
We're
that.
stress-free. This is what I
Yeah.
tell a client. We're
Stress-free.
meeting with them. I go,
Yeah.
listen, clients hire us because they don't want to stress out who's in their house. Are we going over budget? When I always tell clients, I joke with them, I said, you only got to do one thing with us. Keep your elbow iced, because you're just writing checks. That's what I joke with them. That's what I joke with all my clients. Remember, they always joke. And my older clients that have been
That's
using me
great.
for years, they go, Sean, I got the elbow ready. I go,
I
good,
love
you got
it.
That's it.
Love it.
They know we're not cheap. They know we're not cheap, but they know there's not going to be any shenanigans. They ain't going to get a bill that they don't understand. There's nobody's going to spend money they hadn't agreed to.
Mhm.
They understand. I always tell a client, we can only fight over 2 things, and we're never going to fight over those. We're going to fight because I don't understand your expectation. I'm going to ask you questions so we know your expectation. We know what it is you want done. And number 2 is we're never going to fight over money, because everything that involves money, you're going to have agreed to.
Right.
So that's kind of how we do business.
And you hit on something really big, like one of the richest mentors I've ever had in my life, knocking on $1 billion. He said, you don't have to be the cheapest by no means. You can be the most expensive every time and people will pay you, but you absolutely have to be the best. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
I mean, it's tough on cheap, because where do you go if somebody goes cheaper?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can only run in the wrong direction. I always tell a customer this. He told me about price. I said, all right, we got a choice here. I can give you quality. I can give you customer service. I can give you a warranty. But based on your thing, I can't, where do you sacrifice with?
Yeah. What do you want me to cut out?
I can't give you cheapest.
What am I doing? I can't give you quality because I can't hire really good people.
Right.
So I can't give you that. And how do I give you a warranty? Because I barely made money the first time. And I started going through with people and said, how can I give you any of these things? How can I be the cheapest and give you in my field? I go, think about how can I give you those?
Yep.
Yeah,
I love it.
So because I'm going to give you those, I'm not going to be even close.
We're Chihuly fans, Dale Chihuly fans, and the main reason why is because the famous story. He goes into his art gallery right there, and he hasn't sold this $1,200 piece. He's like, "What's up with this?" And they're like, "Nobody will even look at it." He said, "You got a pencil?" And he changed it to 12,000.
Yeah.
Most people would change it to $120. He added a zero, and he said, "I bet we can get some respect now." I love it. Yeah. Right.
and it worked. I had a client the other day. It was too funny because I always tell him, I joke that I'm like the Dr. Kevorkian in construction. I will hurt your, I will kill your HGTV dream quicker than anybody. And I do. I play this game. I said, you point, and I'm going to give you a dollar figure, and we'll just know whether I should walk back to my car or keep walking. I said, we're going to do this really quick. And they start pointing, and I know we're on the right way. And suddenly we just agree to, kind of walk away. But I mean, money and price, there's a way you can go about that where people go, I want to work with. They truly want quality. I tell my partners, I said, listen, everybody wants to work with us, just whether they can afford us. Mm-hmm. And that's our brand position. It's like, I mean, if they could choose anybody, I know they would choose us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's how we pitch, our estimates. I had a client say to me, well, how can we get this price down? I said, you can hire another company. That's exactly what I told him. He said, come on, Sean, how do we get this a little lower? I said, hire somebody else. Oh, I don't want to do that. I said, well, that's it.
Yep.
You got to stand your ground. No one else is going to stand it for you, I assure you.
Yeah. But I can tell you from being in business and in residential and commercial investments. So I've dealt with construction for many, many, many years. I can tell you that I've never regretted any check that I've cut to a contractor that was stress-free. That I got the product at the end exactly the way I was supposed to on time. It's never been a check that I ever cared about signing, and if you sign one where you don't get those things, obviously, then you got a problem and you don't go back there. But if you get that product that you want up front, like you said, there's no questions, and you get what you've paid for, you pay for the quality all day long.
And they call, our phone rings off the hook. We're booked out a year.
Yep. And that's why. That's why. Yep.
I love it. Well, it's time to wrap up now, Sean. Okay. As much as we hate it, we'd love to have you back sometime and talk some more because I love your stories. How can prospects reach you if they have questions or want to touch base? Follow.
Hey, I'm on Instagram, but what I would do is go to my website, SeanCastrina.com. You can download a free book. I believe my team has the 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success on there right now. And I think that's the best way. And listen to the 10-Minute Entrepreneur Podcast. It's the quickest way to learn how to start and grow a business.
And we second that.
From somebody that knows how to do that, guys.
Exactly.
So definitely tune into that.
Yeah. Don't listen to somebody who's not successful.
I know. I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, don't go to the brick mason to get your teeth worked on. It blows my mind. Go to the dentist that knows what they're
10-second story. A guy tried to sell me stock. I'll never forget it. I said, send me over your tax returns. You can black out your Social Security number, send them over. He goes, why is that? I said, well, you want to help me with my finances. I want to see what you made last year.
I want to see how your finances are.
Yeah. He wouldn't do that, and we didn't do business, but that was the whole point.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
That's a very good point. Okay. Well, Sean, thank you so much for coming on Be Bold Branding.
Yes, as always.
You have an amazingly
love hanging out with you.
Yeah, we sure do. All right, guys, if you have questions about your brand or want to learn more about us, head to discussyourbrand.com and learn more.
All right, guys, listen, it's all about prosperity. That's why we do Be Bold Branding. That's what BrandFace is about. But when we say prosperity, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about the full 360 of an abundant life that we wish for every one of y'all. We know at BrandFace that prosperity favors the bold. So we say, be bold, folks, just like Sean, with your brand. And especially in 2021, 2022. And thank you, Ms. Tanya. Thank you, Mr. Sean, as always.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. We will see you next time on Be Bold Branding. Thrive Real Estate Education is a proud sponsor of Be Bold Branding. Thrive is the only online free continuing education school in the country. To find out if they're participating in your home state, go to alwaysfreece.com. All courses are approved and certified by the Real Estate Commission.